Let me first congratulate you for being able to collect a huge gathering and a galaxy of people from the industry on a wet Saturday morning. And let me also wish all the best to the conference. I'm very happy at the outset that we started with the right note. Nobody talked about huge aspects of global financial crisis. Nobody talked about inflation. Nobody talked about liquidity. Nobody talked about regulatory stress. And I think that sets the pace for a conference in wealth management. That is the pace which we look for, because you don't have any answers for the issues which I raised just now. But you have a lot of answers for the issues which Dinaji raised, or Rajiv raised, or Ashish raised, and those are the answers which we should be looking for if we want to move ahead in this wealth industry. Wealth itself, if there was a better name, one would like to have it. Because wealth somehow gives an impression of a divide between 2-3 groups. But we have coined it wealth. We have coined a lot of structures within this wealth, ultra high net worth and high net worth and the mass wealth owners. But I think if the conference is able to focus on the mass wealth owners, which are adding by millions in the Indian scenario, you would have taken something home at the end of the day. And whether it is financial planners, whether it is financial advisors, it is a contact sport. It is not that you meet them once and then they vanish once the transaction is over. That's what happens in real life. And they come back to you at the end of the year between December and February to renegotiate when you have actually lost comprehensive trust in what is going on with you. Financial advising is a contact sport. But as a culture, everywhere it is. My wife is a career counselor. I find people come with 2 options to her. One is, हमें इसको engineer बनाना है. No base, but engineer बनाना है. And at the end of the session, they are only happy if she is able to tell them that your son has potential or your daughter has potential for engineering, medical, or chartered accountant. It is a prophecy. You have to give a prophecy. If you are advising, you have to say at the end of the session that if I am managing your wealth, you will get so much money. And I think that is a tough task for a financial advisor. There is no doubt that the 3-4 things which we need, because the things which I talked about, which is inflation, which is growth rate, which is crisis, these happens in cycle, but they don't take away. All of us sitting here, at least I can be rest assured that the first couple of rows, your wealth has not been affected. And how much of it have you given in financial assets is what also needs to be debated. Your wealth has not been affected. It has only grown over a period of time. My wealth has not been affected. But I was asking my friends if they can recommend a financial advisor. I would like to sit with him and spend some time. Because he has to know your family, he has to know your emotional and psychological depth. He has to know what are your priorities. As Dinaji was saying, that everybody's priority need not be, my priority may be philanthropy. And I would like my wealth manager to tell me how to best do philanthropy. So I think these are big questions and it requires big answers. But I fully agree with Rajiv if he says that to become a certified planner or a certified wealth manager, you need to go through formal programs because it is an education and you learn something in that formal program. But I would disagree that we are today producing millions of engineers without knowing E of engineering. We are producing today millions of management graduates without knowing M of management. Because the wealth has taken over. I cannot recommend anybody today which is the best institute for doing a management in finance. But I can recommend a student that which is the best institute from where if you pass, you can get a package of XYZ. And that is the crisis which we are facing today. And you have to address that crisis. In the 60s and 70s, one of the industries which flourished, and believe me, it flourished because of the representatives, and that was the medical industry. It's still flourishing. We used to have around 85 multinational companies in pharmaceuticals sending drugs to these third world countries where people could do anything they want. And they had the best distribution, sales and marketing, and the representatives who would handle this system in the country. You require that system. You require people, and you have to get out of transaction. You have to charge for advising, or you have to profit share in some form. Until and unless you are able to create a ground for profit sharing of the advice which you give to a client, it may not happen. I find today millions of IT professionals, millions of professionals working in the securities markets, millions of professionals working in the banks, mostly double salary, in the second or third year of their working, getting into real estate. This was never the case earlier on. Second, third year, they are already getting into a house with a reasonably large EMI. And when downturn happens, they are the worst sufferers. Now, it would require a lot more than education, a tremendous amount of soft skills, tremendous amount of patience, tremendous amount of getting no as an answer for the financial advisor to advise these young professionals who are not living in today but now. They are not living in today. They are all living in now. They are connected 24/7. They have the internet, but most of the time, they don't have a backup if plan goes wrong. It is like the London Heathrow Airport. It is the most busy airport in the world, but its baggage is managed by Singapore. So if there is a baggage loss, they don't even look at your face or want to know where your baggage has gone. They would like to pay the claim, because they don't know what is the logistics behind the management which Singapore does in managing the baggage. So they would like to pay the claim rather than get into a debate, where have you come from and what you are doing and what you are not doing. And I think servicing of some of these, if you are able to create a generation, the number of people required is huge, is unbelievably huge. We have grown in the last 2 decades, and we are still growing. We are the third fastest growing country in the globe. So all this, I was just checking with Dinaji that, and I would like some of you to tell me, how many of you actually entered the market when it was between 8,000 and 10,000 at the global financial crisis? I think most of us did not. And it was a huge opportunity to just put everything you had in the market, and it would grow, come what may. When we were growing up, the rule of the thumb for entering the stock market was, please invest in companies which will outgrow you. If the companies survive, you have made money. If the companies go out of business, you have lost money. That was the rule of the thumb. But after screen-based trading came, then you could operate the market on real-time basis. And I think those were issues which